All right, so the 5.7 RSG, not a bad homework. It should go pretty quick. The ready, super simple. Please don't overthink the ready. What I put off to the side is going to help you with the 1 through 6 problems. I have the formula for area, the formula for circumference, and the formula for radius. Every time you see an R stands for radius, and every time you see a D, it stands for diameter. So those are the formulas that you are going to need in order to do 1 through 6. I am not going to do these for you. I'm not going to start them for you. It's telling you leave your answers in pi, which means you really don't have a whole lot of work that you need to do. If I am given the radius and I have to find circumference and area, well, look, formula for area, formula for circumference, you're plugging in for the radius. And then you guys should be able to do that. Check your answers just to double check that you're doing it correct, but you should be fine. Okay, that one is pretty simple, so I don't want to spend time on that. I want to spend time on some of these other ones. So let's look at 7 through 12. I'm going to probably do 7 and 10 with you, and the others you guys can do on your own. Solve for the missing angle, round your answers to the nearest degree. This was something that you guys should have gone over in Math 2. When I need to find an angle measure, I have to use what is called an inverse trig function. So I have to switch these two. And when I switch, just like when I switch x and y, it's the inverse. When I switch these two's place, it becomes the inverse. So in my calculator, it's cosine inverse of 1/6 will equal theta. So I'm switching those, which will turn it to inverse. Because it wants my answer to the nearest degree, my calculator needs to be in degree mode. So double check that your calculator is in degree mode. And you're going to go, since this one is asking for cosine, if you find your cosine button, it says cosine to the -1 above the cosine. So that's second cosine. So second cosine, make sure, so I'll put you how I'm putting this in the parentheses in the calculator. It's 1 divided by 6. You must use parentheses. If you're not going to use parentheses here, you are going to get this wrong. Please make sure you use parentheses. So when I do that, I end up getting 80.4, which is 80 degrees. Okay, so that's number 7. Number 10. It says, hint, in problems 10, 11, and 12, get the trig function alone. So to do that, I'm going to start by adding 2. So 5 sine of theta equals 2. Then I'm going to divide by 5. So now I have sine of theta equals 2 over 5. Now I can do the inverse. I don't have a lot of room here. You'll want to use another piece of paper. So I'm going to have sine inverse of 2 over 5 will equal theta. So in my calculator, I do second sine, parentheses, 2 divided by 5, and I end with 23.57, round it to the nearest degree, which is about 24 degrees. So you guys can go through and finish those other 4 problems. They are not difficult. Don't overthink these. Make sure you are checking your answers. Okay, now the set. The set is going to require some work. Get out extra paper for working these out. You don't have room in your book. They're really not that bad. The law of sines and the law of cosines. This is how I prefer the law of sines. Sine of A over A, cosine of B over B, tangent of C over C. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. but I actually do mine a little differently. I prefer the law of sines, and I don't know if they have it written here at all. I prefer the law of sines as sine of A over A. Sine of B over B. Sine of C over C. So it's similar to what they have here, except I have my fraction a completely different way. This is how I've done it in math analysis for many, many years. This is the formula that I prefer to use. Okay, so it's similar to what is here in the yellow, but we're only going to use sines. This is why it's called the law of sines. So we're going to do this one first because that's the first chunk in your homework. I'm going to do 13. You are going to do the other 3. So I'm only going to do one of these for you completely. Then the other 3 you must do. The law of cosines, you have 4 of them. I'm going to do one of them completely, and the other 3 you must do. And then I'm really not worried about you guys answering 17 and 22. If you want to answer them, answer them. If you don't. That's something that we will have talked about in class. So hunt that answer down and write it down. It might help you, but I'm not going to worry about that. And then here, all those other charts that we have been doing in previous homeworks, use those. Okay, find the 45, 45, 90 triangle and the 30, 60, 90. So you're going to, I don't know why I keep wanting to put 44. Here you're going to use the 45, 45, 90 and the 30, 60, 90 triangles. Okay, so find those triangles. Find them on Google if you need to. We are going to just kill those triangles though when we learn the unit circle. Okay, but the more you start memorizing those 2 triangles, the better off you're going to be for the unit circle. So those are the 2 triangles that you're going to use here. Those are the only angle measures that you should have for these. Your answers should only consist of 45, 30, 60, or 90. That's it. Nothing else. Okay? Find those triangles and use them. Okay, let's get these done. This is going to be kind of time consuming. And you're going to need to make sure that you have your scientific calculator. It's in degree mode. Okay, let's get her done. The law of sines. So I'm going to write this again. Sine of A over A. Sine of B over B. Sine of C over C. Capital B's, capital letters. Capital A, capital B, capital C, those are your angle measures. Little a, little b, and little c, those are your sides. Capital letters are angles. Lowercase letters are sides. In order to use law of sines, you must have an angle with its side. You see how these are across from each other? They are a pair. So those are the 2 that you're going to put together first. So it's the sine of 135 over 15. That's the first pair that I am given. The next one is the 10 degrees, which pairs with this side, but I'm not given that side length. So that's what I'm going to find. This is angle B. It might help, let me go off to the side. It might help if you go capital A, capital B, capital C, little a, little b, little c. And then you can take that information from your triangle. So see how these are together? That means C is 135 degrees. It tells me C is 15 inches, so that's little c. These are in the same corner. That means capital B is 10 degrees. Okay, from here, I can now find everything else. You must use what is paired together. You must use that. I can also find angle A. Don't forget there's 180 degrees in a triangle. So I can do 180 minus 135 minus 10. And angle A is 35 degrees. So I've just done some simple subtraction and I only have two sides left to find. So law of sines is I use the pair that I am given. So sine of 15 over 15 equals. Now, do you want to find side A or side B first? I always go with the first letter, so A. So A goes with 35 degrees. So sine of 35, and it's over little a. Now we cross multiply. So I have A sine of 135 equals 15 sine of 35. And then I'm going to divide by the sine of 135. So A is going to equal, now you can use your calculator, and I'm going to have 15 sine of 35, and I hit equals. Keep that decimal in my calculator, and it's divided by the sine of 135, which gives me 12.2 after I round. So 12.2. Okay, so there's my first side. I only have one more side to go. I'm going to still use the sine of 135 over 15. But now I'm looking for side B, so I have to use angle B. So 10 over B. Cross multiply. B sine of 135 equals 15 sine of 10. Divide by the sine of 135. And now I can use my calculator. So now it's 15 sine of 10, hit equals, divided by the sine of 135. And I get 3.7 after I round. So I know I'm done. I have three sides, I have three angles, I've used the law of sines twice. Please, please, please do not overthink these. Please. Law of sines is one of the easiest formulas to use. Most mistakes are going to happen in your calculator because you're not sure how to plug in. Please make sure you keep checking your answers. Do a problem, check your answers. Do a problem, check your answers. Or find one piece and check your answers. Your answers should be up on your phone or your Chromebook as you guys are going through these. Please make sure you keep checking your answers. So you have three more of these to go, and then you should be good with the law of sines. The law of sines after this, okay? We'll have spent a day going over this in class, and then you'll be practicing. So you need help, come in and see me, and I will give you more guidance if you need that, okay? Let's move on to the law of cosines. Law of cosines is actually a more complicated formula, but my students last year, they kind of surprised me because I thought that for sure they would like the law of sines better. It's an easier formula to use, it's less to it, but they all prefer the law of cosines. I was really, really, really shocked. They said it was because there's three formulas to choose from. It's very straightforward. It really wasn't an issue. They preferred that. I don't care. Okay, you use one or the other. That's just the way it is. Okay, you're going to have to know when to use which. And with the law of sines, don't forget you had to have a pair. You had to be given a pair, an angle and a side. Here you are not given a pair. We're going to do 18 together. If I write out A, B, C, and then little a, little b, and little c. I'm going to write down what I'm given. So I am given angle A is 115 degrees. I'm not given its side length. Side A would be across from it, and I'm not given that. Angle B, I am not given angle B, but I am given the side that is across from it, therefore it is 30. Little b is 30. Angle C I am not given, but I'm given the side that is across from it, which is 20. Now last year, when we were going over the law of cosines, I remember on the test, one of the things that most of my students missed, well, those who got it wrong, the majority got it wrong because they decided to use the Pythagorean theorem. You need to remember, the Pythagorean theorem can only be used on right triangles. That is the only time I can use the Pythagorean theorem. So please don't use the Pythagorean theorem here. You cannot use it. So now I need to decide which law of cosine formula I am going to use. You base this decision on the angle you are given. Okay, we'll have gone over this in class. Based on the angle you are given, since I'm given angle A, I am going to use A squared equals B squared plus C squared minus 2BC cosine of A. It's based off the angle I am given. Now it's just a matter of plugging in. I don't know A squared. I know B. B is 30. I know C. C is 20. Okay, now you have to be careful plugging into your calculator. Please be very, very careful. So 30 squared is 900. 20 squared is 400 minus 2 times 30 times 20 is 120. You must follow order of operations, so you add those first. So I have 1300 minus 120 cosine of 115. The next thing that you must do is 120 times the cosine of 115. You must. You cannot subtract. Multiplication comes before subtraction. So in my calculator, and we'll have practiced this in class, so it shouldn't be too bad. It's 120 cosine of 115, calculator in degrees, and I hit equals. I end up getting a negative, so now I'm going to have 1300 minus, this ends up being 50.714 and then some. I would just do 1300 minus second answer, minus that answer. So now I have A squared equals, it ends up being 1350.714 and then some, but I'm not using that decimal in my calculator. I'm using the one that's actually in my calculator like we practiced in class. Now my next step is to square root this. So in my calculator, it's second square root, second answer. And I end up with 36.75. Okay, so now I have side A. 3 sides down, I have 2 angles to go. You only have to find one more angle because then you can use that there's 180 degrees inside of a triangle. I still don't understand why students prefer this method. It really baffles me because that's a lot of work compared to the law of sines. For those of you who like the law of sines, you are now able to use the law of sines because you have a pair. So if you want to use the law of sines, you are welcome to do so now. But just for the sake of practicing the law of cosines, I'm going to use the law of cosines one more time. I am going to subtract or erase my work, okay? So if you did not write that down, rewind the video, press pause, and write the work down, okay? All right, so two angles, B and C. I'm going to find angle B first. Because I have to find angle B, I need to use the cosine formula that uses angle B, which is B squared equals A squared plus C squared minus 2AC cosine of B. Very simple. Now all I have to do is plug into this thing. So it's 30 squared equals 36.75 squared plus 20 squared minus 2 times 36.75 times 20 cosine of B. Okay, now take your time working through this, please. You must take your time. 30 squared is 900. 36.75 squared, 1350.56 plus 400 minus 2 times 36.75. Hold on, I hit divide on accident. 2 times 36.75 times 20 gives me 1470 cosine of B. You're solving for B. So I must move these two things over. So I'm going to just use my calculator for that. It's 900. So we're going to subtract these. It's 900 minus 1350.56 minus 400. So I end up with negative 850.56 equals negative 1470 cosine of B. Now here's where the mistake happens. A lot of students want to add 1470, but we can't. This is multiplication. You divide by 1470, negative 1470. So the 850 is already in my calculator. I divide by negative 1470 and I get 0.5786 and then some cosine of B. Now in a previous homework, or in the previous part of this homework, we had to inverse. So B is going to equal cosine inverse of this decimal. Please use the decimal in your calculator. Do not use this cut off decimal. So second cosine gives me the inverse and then it's second answer. If you guys aren't going to use that, then that's on you. And when you're getting things wrong because your decimals are off, I will have absolutely no sympathy. Now, B ends up equaling 54.65. So 54.65. In order to find angle C, it's going to be 180 minus 115 minus 54.65. 180 minus 115 minus 54.65, which gives me 10.35. Now, some of you might have something a little different as you guys are working through these because of you cutting off decimals. Please don't cut off decimals. If your answers are close, like maybe you get like a 54.62, that's okay. What's not okay is a 52.7. That's not okay. You are way off. So please follow order of operations. Keep using the answer button in your calculator like we practiced in class. Okay? Take your time with these. It's really not that bad, but it is time consuming. Don't be lazy. And then again on the go, we already talked about this. Use the internet for this. Use what we've already done throughout the book. We're going to actually spend a lot of time on this when we are done with Module 5. So these little boxes, I'm really not too worried about right now. Okay, I really want to make sure that we understand the law of sines and law of cosines. and how to solve right triangles. All right, that wraps up 5.7. Questions, come in with them tomorrow.